I will be reading a piece published in the New York Times on June 15th, 2024. It is an opinion piece by NICHOLAS KRISTOf, and it is entitled, "What Have We Liberals Done to the West Coast?" My name is Edward Gilliland. As Democrats make their case to voters around the country this fall, one challenge is that some of the bluest parts of the country, cities on the West Coast, are a mess. Centrist voters can reasonably ask, why put liberals in charge nationally when the places where they have the greatest control are plagued by homelessness, crime, and dysfunction? I'll try to answer that question in a moment, but liberals like me do need to face the painful fact that something has gone badly wrong where we're in charge, from San Diego to Seattle. I'm an Oregonian who bores people at cocktail parties by singing the praises of the West. But the truth is that far too often, we offer a vision of progressivism that doesn't result in progress. We are more likely to believe that housing is a human right than conservatives in Florida or Texas, but less likely to actually get people housed. We accept the yawning gulf between our values and our outcomes. Michael Schellenberger wrote a tough book denouncing what he called San Francisco, with a subtitle, "Why Progressives Ruin Cities." Yet that does not ring true with me. Democratic states enjoy a life expectancy 2 years longer than Republican states. Per capita GDP in Democratic states is 29% higher than in GOP states, and child poverty is lower. Education is generally better in blue states, with more kids graduating from high school and college. The gulf in well-being between blue states and red states is growing wider, not narrower. So my rejoinder to Republican critiques is, yes, governance is flawed in some blue parts of America, but overall, liberal places have enjoyed faster economic growth and higher living standards than conservative places. That doesn't look like failure. So the problem isn't with liberalism, it's with the West Coast liberalism. The two states with the highest rates of unsheltered homelessness are California and Oregon. The three states with the lowest rates of unsheltered homelessness are all blue ones, in the Northeast, Vermont, New York, and Maine. Liberal Massachusetts has some of the finest public schools in the country, while liberal Washington and Oregon have below average high school graduation rates. Oregon ranks dead last for youth mental health services according to Mental Health America, while Washington, D.C. and Delaware are ranked best. Drug overdoses appear to have risen last year in every Democratic state on the West Coast, while they dropped last year in every Democratic state in the Northeast. The homicide rate in Portland last year was more than double that of New York City. Why does Democratic Party governance seem less effective on the West Coast than on the East Coast? Sometimes I wonder if the West is less serious about policy than the East, and less focused on relying on the most rigorous evidence. There is some evidence for that, but I'm not sure, for it's also true that West Coast states have managed to innovate exponentially well in some domains. Oregon pioneered death with dignity through physician-assisted suicide and led the way to vote by mail, an important step for democracy. California has some of the smartest gun laws in America, championed by Governor Gavin Newsom. As a result, California has a firearm death rate 40% below the national average. So my take is that the West Coast central problem is not so much that it's unserious as that it's infected with an ideology, purity, that is focused more on intentions than on oversight and outcomes. I ran for governor in Oregon 2 years ago. I was ousted from the ballot by Oregon's then Secretary of State, who said I didn't meet the residency requirement while running. I met groups of liberal donors in Portland as the city's problems cast a shadow over all of us. We'd all be wondering nervously if our catalytic converters were in the process of being stolen. The undercurrent in such a liberal gathering would be the failures of Republicans, but Portland was one mess we couldn't blame on Republicans, because there simply aren't many Republicans in Portland. This was our liberal mess. Politics always is part theater, but out west, too often we settle for being performative rather than substantive.